Hey everyone, it's Evelyn. Thank you so much for joining me here on Reppin'. So, what happens when you walk away from something everyone says you're supposed to want? Well, last time actress Sohn was here, she had just stepped back from the hit show The Blacklist. Leaving a hit show in your 20s takes courage. Not because things were falling apart, but because Laura wanted more. More curiosity, more connection, more meaning beyond what anyone else thinks success should look like. Now, Laura is back, and we're going to catch up. We're going to hear all about what she's been up to, the lessons she's learned, and we're going to hear all about her new play called Jeza that's going to be happening in New York City. Laura also shares insights about her own family, her heritage, and what it really means to stop proving yourself and start owning who you are. Get ready. Here comes Laura Sohn.
It's not a great feeling to always have to prove yourself.
It's exhausting.
It's so exhausting. And to feel welcome is I just feel like it's so taken for granted to be welcome in a space.
Right.
Because when you feel welcome, you're able to be yourself. And being yourself is such a privilege.
Rough and rugged, represent NY, hold it down for my peeps. New York, New York. We rep the hardest, hardcore. Nobody harder. Let them know that's the way we rock it. Tell me what you got.
I love seeing you, and I can't believe this is the only way we can connect. How are you?
I'm so good.
It's good to see you. It's been a minute since you were last on the podcast.
I know.
I'm really happy to have you back on to talk about what that transitional time has been. I think the last time we talked, I mean, obviously we met on the Blacklist, but having the courage to step away from something that is super successful for well-being and care and prioritizing your life, I think at any age takes a lot of self-awareness, grit, and courage to do, because no one wants to leave a good thing, right? You're in your 20s when you landed Blacklist, which was a huge show, and you stepped away from it. Talk a little bit about that time period and what life has been like since.
I walked away and ended very amicably.
Yes.
And honestly, I just been focusing on what it means to live a full life and make mistakes and explore more who I am, lean into my hobbies. And it's been a really big time for me to identify what gives me meaning and purpose in my life and go back to the roots of who I am. Also nurturing my hobbies. I think for so long I've studied acting, and I think a little bit of my ego and pride got in the way of oh, if I don't become a successful actor, then it was all for nothing. And because of that, I think I was trying to prove to myself that I was an actor rather than allowing the storytelling element to be the reason why I was an actor. It's did I have to prove it, or did I actually want it because I wanted to be someone who makes a change with their art?
Yeah, I get that. But here, let me just defend you for just a second against yourself. You're one of the most grounded people I know. You have your head screwed on pretty straight. And for you to be able to step away from something so huge in your 20s, I don't know that people in their 50s would do that. And this is obviously not just applicable to television. I think anything successful, it's difficult to prioritize your own life
Yeah.
first. I think,
Yeah.
especially when things are so difficult to survive and life is so demanding. So I don't
Mm,
know that it was a pride and ego thing. I'll say this from just knowing you and knowing the business. When we're in our 20s, we want to make our mark. We want to get a job. We want to succeed. We have altruistic intentions, which is great. But a lot of that is fed through, I think, external messages or indoctrinations of things.
mm,
So I don't
mm.
know that it was your ego that was like, quote unquote, getting in the way. I don't know you to be a diva at all. Otherwise, girlfriend, we would not be on this call and we wouldn't still be friends after all these years.
I know, right. I guess I don't mean it in more of like a diva way. I think it was more so it's like this deep rooted Korean pride that I have of like proving to even just like my parents, making their immigration story worth it. Like I have to be successful because, I have the privilege to be able to go after like my dream and even like enter the acting industry as like a job. My parents did not, force me to go into a corporate job. They allowed me a very long leash to be able to do what I wanted to do. Because of that leash, I think I felt a lot of pressure to
Mhm.
be successful. Successful in that like
Like not disappointing their expectations of making something of yourself.
right. And that definition of success was defined by, being on a TV show
Hmm.
or, how much money I was making. Like it was very
Asian,
defined by society. Yes, exactly.
very Asian, very immigrant.
Right. And it was less about like what my own definition of success is in this industry.
The entertainment industry is not easy. I know that it seems very glamorous and it is fun. You have to be, but I think you have to be a little bit like mental
Yeah.
and masochistic to be in this business.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I think these past, uh, I mean, the years after I left,
Hmm.
to be completely honest, like they were so humbling. Part of it was like, after leaving the show, I felt very much like, oh, I have this thing on my resume. Now there'll be more opportunities for me. That's not the case at all. There was a learning curve in that I really was humbled. I still have to work hard and I
Yeah.
still have to really want it. And still have to put in the work. Even when I do all those things, it still might not go my way.
Right. Right.
The life of the actor, like you were saying, it's really not all that glamorous. I feel like a lot of people see it as this thing that's been kind of
Yeah.
idolized because of celebrity culture, social media, whatever have you. But it really isn't. There's a lot of downtime, there's a lot of waiting, there's still a lot of rejection. And in that meantime, I've figured out like how to really live a full life and have really meaningful relationships and still be able to feel like I'm living.
Tell me about one moment that sort of came together because everything that you said is 100% true in terms of being in the entertainment, certainly being an actor, being a producer also. You're as good as your last gig. And even then, you could just, on a whim, someone could just never hire you again. And
Right.
it is endless hours. And you
Yeah.
can find yourself in like strange places shooting in
Mm.
like the middle of the night with no bathroom. And I think people don't understand that. But you were talking about sort of transitioning and living a fuller life. That took,
Yeah.
I'm sure, a lot of work because I know you to be very reflective and thoughtful. So tell me about one moment where it was really challenging. And then was there something that helped you sort of turn that corner and what was it?
Honestly, I'm very privileged in that I have very supportive family, very supportive parents. And there was actually a trip that I took with my mom maybe like 2 years ago where we went to Paris and then we went to Nice. And during that trip, I really connected with her in less of a parental relationship and more of a human friendship.
Oh, that's great.
Right. Yeah. And I think that was the first kind of time that I've realized that I'm now an adult and she's an adult and we can be friends. and we can really get to know one another and learn from one another and talk in a way that feels more like we're building a friendship. And because of that trip, I think it really helped me open up my eyes to the types of relationships that I actually want to nurture. And it especially made me realize like how grateful I am to be Korean.
Oh God, I love that.
We talked a little bit about this actually. A lot of my life has felt like I've had to prove myself. I have to prove that I'm an actor. I had to prove that I'm American. Never in my life did I have to really prove that I was Korean, because so much of my time was proving that I'm American. And when I had that conversation with my mom, I realized I didn't really know a lot about my Korean background. I didn't know that my mom's dad was like a chicken farmer, and he was one of the first like chicken farmers in South Korea, and he went abroad for work and was one of the first people to connect chickens in Germany to Korea. And I was like, I had no idea. And I really didn't get in touch with any of my history, my Korean history. And I think that really was like the seed that planted in me of why it's so important to identify as Korean American, not American Korean. When I introduce myself, I always say that I'm Korean American without realizing like how I've lived my life kind of flipped. I've lived my life American Korean. And so that kind of was the seed that planted in me the inspiration to go back to my roots. I took a month-long trip to Korea by myself. I do have an extended family in Korea,
Wait, do you
but
speak?
I do speak Korean. Yes.
Oh, that's so awesome. Okay, awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh, really?
No, I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, my first language.
Yeah, but Chinese is my first too, but I'm losing it pretty badly. So,
No, English is definitely my dominant language
yeah,
now,
okay.
but Korean has always been my first language, and I do speak it because I love Korean dramas, and I speak to my mom in Korean.
I'm so tired because I was staying up watching K-dramas all fucking night.
I love that.
I'm obsessed.
Yes.
I even signed up for like Vicky Rakuten because it was more Asian.
What? Yeah, I love Vicky. Yes. Amazing. I love it. I
So
love
we
it.
got to compare notes later. Before you had this trip, because I want to
Yes.
backtrack for just a second.
Sure.
When you had this moment with your mom where you realized there was an absence, let's say, of your Korean culture and background, like that connection.
Yeah.
Did you clock that ever before, or was that the moment that you
Well,
had that sort of realization that you never really fully connected with your Korean heritage?
I'm gonna sound so ignorant when I say like I really don't think I had a moment where I
Yeah,
I like
me too.
dropped into that identity really. I think I've always grew up watching like Korean dramas, and so I thought that was like enough, right? Yeah, like I'm Korean. I eat kimchi. I go to Mars. Like, yes, I'm Korean. But I really don't know a lot about even like Korean history. Like my grandpa on my dad's side, he served in the army and he was pretty high up in the chain. Again, it's like there was no curiosity from my part about that history, you know?
Sort of your blind spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
And I also, I'm not blaming my parents at all, but I think like having immigrated here and having the distance and from my extended family and from Korea, I didn't visit Korea as much as I could have.
Well, there's no curiosity, right?
Right.
Listen, I'm going to just again defend you and your parents because I have a similar experience in the sense that we've definitely talked about this a little bit, in person. I think from your parents' point of view, They were too
Hmm.
busy
Of course,
creating a
survive.
life and
Right.
surviving. And then
Absolutely.
when we're born, we're just sort of trying to figure our shit out too, just in life.
Right. Right.
So I don't know that it is a thing that you can, put responsibility on, is all I'm
Right.
saying.
Right. Right. 100% agree. The conversation that I had with my mom in that Paris trip really it planted that seed of curiosity, and that I was like, oh, I don't know a lot about my Korean background, and I would love to know more. Because I do think it would inform, like, the artist and the art that I make.
Hmm.
That is an impact that I would like to make on like, in America, in industry. It
Yes.
would help, and I know so many other people, like, even just, like, my friends would relate to this. That's why I became really passionate about Korean American stories, you know? So many of us have been kind of I think so many of us feel like we're not represented in any way, shape, or form. I got very passionate about speaking out more about that identity.
Well, to your point, I mean, not being represented sort of
Yeah.
fed into our absence, right? As a kid, of not knowing
Mhm.
or having curiosity about our ethnicities. I mean, I know that you're Korean, I'm Chinese, but in terms of being Asian or somebody of minority, the absence of representation is one part of many pieces that led us into not being curious or feeling the need to
Right,
know all parts of ourselves. So
right.
this is a huge point.
No,
Again, Laura, I think you're like a really old soul, which I love. And you really do take the time to constantly reevaluate and grow. I don't know that you're somebody that shies away from growth and challenges as a person.
I welcome it.
I okay, so that point in Paris was obviously a hugely pivotal moment. And then you decided to take a solo trip to Korea. Tell me a little bit about that experience and some of the most impactful moments.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it was in the simplest moments, me going out and grabbing a meal by myself at a restaurant. Um, the Ajimas, or the older women who are
The
working there,
aunties. Yeah.
the aunties, yeah.
They're very scary, by the way. Very aggressive.
They just want you to eat a lot and
No,
then
I
get
was manhandled in a market. Did you go to, I can't remember. I think I was in like,
was it like Gwangjang Market? Like one of
yes,
those
I went
yes.
to the Noodle Alley and I was
Oh,
like,
okay.
where is this alley thing? Because it's like
Yeah,
wedged in this tiny little, and it's like really buried. And I think
yeah,
I
yeah.
made eye contact with someone and she smiled at
Uh-huh.
me. So I was like, oh, hi. And next
Yeah.
thing I knew, she grabbed my arm, like pulled me in, threw me down in the first booth, and dug into
Yeah.
my bag for the for the like $8 for
Oh
food.
my word.
Yes,
Wow. You were targeted.
the Ajimas are, yeah, they're hardcore.
Oh, yes, they are very hardcore. But I do have to say, it's like there was a welcoming that I haven't really experienced. Okay, my experience as a Asian woman walking around New York, uh, well, one, everyone assumes I'm Chinese. So I have to be like, I have no idea what you're saying. Like, I'm not Chinese, I'm Korean. So to have a welcoming experience in South Korea, in that, like, everyone starts speaking to me in Korean, I was like, oh, people like assume I'm Korean here. Wow, what a change. Like I said, it's like it's so simple in that, like, they just come up to me speaking Korean and I just felt welcome.
They see you.
Yeah, exactly. And it was this sense of, one, owning my identity as, like, a Korean American. Like, I had nothing to prove, right? It's like
Mhm.
when I was in America or New York, I'm like, "Oh, no, I'm Korean," and I'm not gonna be, like, all of a sudden speaking Korean to prove I'm Korean, but it's like I didn't have to do any of that. Over there, it's like they speak to me in Korean, I speak back to them in Korean. It was strange because I don't know if you have this when you speak Mandarin,
Cantonese.
or
Yeah.
Cantonese, where you feel closer to this person because they speak your mother tongue?
I want to say yes, but I think for me, I had sort of a little bit of a different experience because
Mm.
I speak Cantonese and I don't
Yeah.
speak Mandarin.
Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
only kind of place that I could speak my native language would be in Hong Kong. And when
Okay.
I do that, they still look at me weird because I sound like an American
Okay,
speaking
but
Cantonese.
yeah,
So
yeah.
then I don't they get confused there, which further confuses me. And then when I went to China, and this is I think the interesting dynamics, you felt completely welcomed because people just started speaking to you in Korean.
Yeah.
People in China started like launching into conversations
Uh-huh.
in Mandarin, and I was like cartoon bubbles of like question marks
Right, right, right.
appeared over
Sure.
my head. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
then they
Yeah.
just like turned around and left because they didn't they didn't know
Mm,
what to do. So I didn't have that. If anything, I felt
mm,
like again I didn't slot in there either.
yeah. Yeah. Well, this is what's fascinating to me. It's that like there's so many different um ways that these kinds of experiences can go
Yeah,
as like a when you enter like these countries. When I went to Japan, sometimes they would speak to me in Japanese and I'm like, "Oh, I'm not Japanese.
yeah,
I don't speak this language." But I think it was nice that in Korea, because I speak Korean, I was able to experience a welcoming and that there was a there was a sense of ownership that I'm Korean, you
yeah.
know? That felt very it just felt really nice to feel. It's not a great feeling to always have to prove yourself.
It's exhausting.
It's so
Yeah,
exhausting. And to feel welcome is I just feel like it's so taken for granted to be welcome in a space.
right.
Because when you feel welcome, you're able to be yourself. And being yourself is such a privilege. Being yourself and not feeling judged, not feeling like you have to, again, prove yourself or be liked. It's such a feeling that we take for granted.
It's
Um,
liberating, isn't it? Where you don't have that weight of like
yeah,
having to make some sort of or reach some sort of expectation,
yeah, it is.
right?
And I think it creates the best work as well, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah, I'll just like bring it back to work because something that I realize is we throw around the term safe space
Hmm.
so often these days because we generally want to create safe spaces in the work environment. But to feel safe requires the feeling of welcomeness.
That's the first step. Yeah.
Right. And so what I've been working on is to how do I actually get the other person to feel welcome? How can I invite them into a space with me to feel welcome, to feel warm, to feel comfort?
Did you find all of this in Korea? Did you find those elements of feeling welcomed? Because you just laid that out so beautifully. Is it because you've sort of had that and that came to be in Korea?
Yes. I mean, okay, well, again, I always like to talk about the simple experiences because I think they get taken for granted. Something so simple again that happened to me in Korea. I was in Busan, which is like it's like another city in South Korea, more like the Hawaii city. Maybe like more like California, like San Diego.
Yeah.
So, because I feel like Jeju is more like Hawaii. Anyway,
Yeah.
so I was in Busan and I went to a restaurant and I really wanted like hue, which is Korean sashimi. And the restaurant owner was like, "Oh, we actually don't serve like solo diners, but let me like walk you to this like marketplace and like this Ajima can make you a platter." And I was like, "Okay, great." He walked me over to the marketplace and like sat me down and like the Ajima was like, "Oh, like what kind of fish do you want?" Da da da. And so like she's like there making me a platter and she had been cutting a piece of chame or Korean melon. It's delicious. It's actually one of my favorite fruits. And she was cutting this to enjoy for herself, and she shared it with me. She just was like, "Here." I was so moved by this small gesture,
Yeah.
and instantly I was like, "Oh, she's welcoming me." And it's like, it's in those moments that I felt very, just this sense of warmth and kindness, and it can be as simple as sharing a piece of fruit with someone, you know?
Yeah.
She, not like she was like, "Okay, and like, where's my $1?" Like, like it was free.
Right.
Nothing in life is free, but in this moment, I felt this great gratitude that she was just sharing this piece of fruit with me.
It's community.
Yeah.
It's graciousness. It's thinking about someone else and sharing. It sounds so cliche and almost sometimes cheesy, but it's like it's never the big things. It's always the small things that makes
Yeah.
someone feel seen and valued, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you had this experience, but I feel like when they share something so small,
Mm-hmm.
that is like it's like a big deal for them because it's not something lavish.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Mm.
Whatever they have, they're willing to share. How did that inform you about your background and culture? Like, how did that help you connect?
Mm. So Busan is actually, it's the city that's closer to where my mom grew up. She grew up
Oh,
in Gwangju. When you live in any type of city, the people in city tend to be a lot
busier.
busier. They have a hustle mentality,
Yes.
and they have a lot more layers on. It's funny because I still live in New York, and I run into people all day, and it's just like, like
Yeah.
I want to avoid people. But I mean it in more so like in the smaller, simpler moments when I'm able to connect with someone one on one. I identified more with my mom in that I realized like I still love people. In that moment, I realized like my mom has always been someone who is unconditionally kind. I don't want to lose my sense of kindness just because the world is hard.
I love that.
Yeah,
It's hard to do, though.
it is very hard to do. It is very, very hard to, yeah, it is very hard to do. I just like, you're right. It is. I still struggle with it,
Yeah.
There's a lot of grace, there's a lot of patience. That moment just reminded me that we all can use kindness. No one's going around being like, "Oh, I wish they weren't kind to me today." Like, you've never heard that phrase because it's like any amount of kindness goes a long way.
Yeah. But I don't think there's enough of it.
Exactly.
It sounds like you really sort of plugged into a little bit more of your culture. How did it make you appreciate being Korean? Because you and I, again, we talked a little bit. I went to Asia on a massive Asia trip by myself as well. And that
Yeah.
really helped me sort of appreciate my being
Mhm.
Asian. To your point, I can certainly empathize because I knew I was Chinese, but I was never like, yay, I'm Chinese. Only recently have I sort of found community, and I'll put you in this group as well. Like, being able to see someone on screen.
Mm.
I hope you know that just you doing what you're doing and sharing your
Mm.
talent. And I've said this to like, other people in private conversations that are in the business, certainly. Somewhere in this world that's watched you on TV do your thing,
Yeah.
you've changed the narrative of what is possible for
Mm.
some small Asian kid somewhere. And I
Yeah.
think for people who are not Asian, you're changing that idea and challenging that stereotype that we are the joke. So,
Yeah.
how have you come back from that trip in Korea different?
I wanted and now want to have more ownership of what it means to be Korean American, like Korean. It's interesting. I feel like Korean American is its own thing. It's not just being Korean and American, it's Korean American. Take more ownership in that. there is a third identity here. It's Korean American, Korean American. And that definition of being Korean American is different for every single Korean American, because there's different, it's like such a sliding scale of like, how Korean are you? How American are you? Where do you fit into that? And taking ownership of like those identities and having it be who I am today. I think it's important to recognize that, like, okay, this is the face that I have, and I want others who look like me to be able to be empowered that we belong, you know? But I also think after a certain point, it's really beautiful to be able to see one another as just like humans.
Yeah. You'd think it'd be easy.
Yeah, I know. That feels much more like far along down the road. That journey to becoming being a little bit more
Whole?
compassionate.
Yeah.
Yeah, whole. I think the Korea trip more so, I think it was important for me because like I just didn't want to I didn't want to be ignorant anymore about what it means to be Korean. Especially now because like K-pop and it's such a strange thing to see how
Yeah.
popular like Korean things are becoming, you know, K-beauty, and we're just taking over the world.
Listen, when I first heard like there was a Korean group selling at Madison Square Garden, I was like, wait, I don't even understand that.
Yeah.
Like what?
It's bizarre, and because like, you know, when I grew up, there was so much of this denying that part of myself because I wanted to fit in.
Right.
And now we live in a world where it's celebrated. And obviously, like, I'm so happy that we've come this far, you know, we've come such a long way. But I think every like Asian American person living in America, we've all had to battle with like what it means to be Asian and what it means to be American. And I just hope that there's room for them to, for everyone to be able to accept like the Asian part of themselves.
It sounds like you've really like you've really connected a lot of the dots in the since you left Blacklist and on these trips.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
you know, the stuff we're talking about can take lifetimes
Mm.
to work out and to connect. But I'm assuming that, you know, this is just the beginning of your journey. Like there's obviously
Yeah.
still a lot more work to plug into. But do you feel a more celebratory sense of your Korean background?
I do. I do. And part of my Korea trip, I actually visited my grandparents on my dad's side. Both of them are very old. And unfortunately, like my grandma, she was very old and she passed last year.
Oh,
And
sorry.
yeah, and she had Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And so it was a very, it was, it was a long time coming.
Mhm.
She was sick for a very long time. But I think seeing her in that fragile state just made me realize like, I got very emotional realizing how the time spent in America living here, I was never able to connect with her and have a conversation with her on a human level of about like who she is, where she came from, and like how she came to be, what's important to her. And I think that's why when I had that conversation with my mom, I just found it very necessary because I just didn't want to take for granted anymore the history, like my own history.
Right.
And so moving forward, I want to have conversations with my dad about his life. And it's also so funny because like, you know, growing up in a Asian American household, we don't talk about our feelings.
No.
Like we're just like, did you eat? How much money do you make?
What your grades were?
What my grades were.
Yeah.
We're not like sitting there being like, are you happy? Like, uh, tell me like what's going on in your life really?
That's a Hallmark TV show.
Right. But I think that's what I'm now trying to push for. Yes, with my parents.
Okay.
I find it very necessary because I want to know that part of them. I want to know them and I want to see them and I want to understand them because they grew up so differently than I did. And I think it would help me understand like why and who I am today as well.
I love that. Let's talk about your play because this sort of it does lean into what you're talking about. Now that
Yeah.
you've had this newfound sense of cultural awareness and identity that you're harvesting, you have jumped into this play. Tell me a
Yes.
little bit about the play. Tell me about the name, your role, and
Yeah.
what the story is.
Okay, so the play is called Jeza, and Jeza is a Korean ceremony that you hold for your ancestors slash it's like a grieving ceremony that slash ritual that you do on the day that they passed. I'm playing Liz, who is the maknae, who is the youngest of four sisters. And the play is about four Korean American sisters coming back home to hold this cheza for their parents. There's a lot of comedy, there's a lot of relatable family drama.
Yes, not just specific to Asia. I think there's going to be
Yes,
a lot of universal themes. Is that fair to say?
yes. We open officially March 20th, runs through April 5th.
I'm definitely getting a ticket. I definitely want to support. But I think it's also amazing that you have a play in New York, even though it's the most diverse city. You
Yeah.
don't always see plays that feature. Let me just break this down. Yes, in some ways, it is specific to being Korean, but for young women coming
Yeah.
together that are
Yeah.
Asian and being a family. Tell me a little bit about your personal experience now that you've come back with this newfound understanding and celebration of yourself and your family and your ethnicity and your background. Talk about what it means for you or what it's been like for you to be a part of a play that sort of is like perfect timing, Laura.
Well, okay, so Gina Yee, who's the playwright, and she's also an actor, incredible writer. I'm so honestly, I feel very privileged to be a part of this process, this play, because it gives voice to Asian women in that she really created like four-dimensional people. They all have such a beautiful arc and they all are beautifully human. And I feel like it's so rare to see like Asian stories that really highlight them as more than just the stereotypical Asian. There's no nerds here. We're not the best friend. We're all main characters. And it just feels so good to be in a collaborative space. Mayan, the director, they're really great at seeing the play as a family story. All my castmates, Shannon, Tina, Hisan, they're all so beautiful and like lovely to work with. I love the conversations that we have in the room. I found them to be all incredibly moving, intelligent, funny, and so incredibly talented. So to be in that work environment for 6 days a week, I leave feeling so inspired. And I honestly, I have imposter syndrome being there. I'm like, am I worthy? Truly, because it's been so healing for me to work on this play.
I mean, I know rehearsals are they're they're tiring long days.
Yeah.
When you're in rehearsals, was there a time where you just sort of sat, took a minute and just sort of observed the experience? What were your thoughts on this in terms of being a part of something like this?
Honestly, it's there wasn't a specific moment. I think just walking into the room and like every day realizing like I'm surrounded by faces that all feel welcoming to me. I'm going to circle back to this feeling of welcomeness. I didn't have to prove myself. I just was there. I just was there. I did the work and I left feeling like, oh, I don't have to be this perfect person because I'm welcome here. When I was in other shows, there was so much of like, I cannot mess up because the weight of being Asian American is on my shoulders and I have to be the best.
Yeah.
Because I've made it. And I'm representing this whole group of people. But in this space, I'm able to be human and I'm able to just be myself. I don't have to prove myself, and that feeling, again, a lot of people take it for granted, but it's not a familiar feeling for me. I'm so incredibly grateful that I have the privilege to be in a space like this where I'm able to mess up and not have it be like I'm under a microscope and picked apart.
Yeah.
And that creates my best work.
Yeah, because you're not like self-doubting. There's no like breeding insecurity.
None. Honestly, just reading this play out loud, Gina, she's Korean American, the playwright, and finding moments in that play, relating to them because it's like something that happened in my own household and being like, oh my gosh, me too. I think that's why I've been like, this play has been so healing for me because it's like to find someone who has a similar experience and have like a little bit of like a you too moment is something where we can connect on so instantaneously and feel closer because of it. Or just reading the play out loud and then talking about our own like experiences within our household being like, oh my gosh, my mom had that same sponge. It's so it's just as simple as that. Or like we have the same like washcloth. Yeah, so it's like, oh my gosh, like I didn't realize like how many things we had in common.
Yep.
And when you find those little simple things that you have in common, it's just something that like brings you closer to the other person. And it's just it has been really lovely just talking about those things out loud in a way that doesn't feel so pedestrian and ordinary.
Yeah.
And it actually just feels very extraordinary to our experiences growing up. That's been really beautiful for me. And again, healing.
What has been the most appreciated lesson you've taken with you, like as a person, as a whole?
Oh my gosh. The most appreciated lesson.
You went from, having this blind spot, and I get it, of your Korean background. So
Yeah.
now what is sort of that new perspective that you've gotten and you've incorporated into your being
Yeah.
at this particular point?
You are never too young, too old to be curious and learn. For me, as empowering as it is to be solid, it's also really beautiful to remain fluid.
I get that.
For a very long time, when you establish yourself as an identity that's kind of stuck in stone, for example, like with my Americanness, I've always been like, oh, I'm American, I'm American, or I'm American. That didn't give room. That didn't give any space for my Koreanness. But now I've been able to gain a lot more perspective and curiosity for like nurturing other identities that I might be able to identify as. So instead of being so stubborn and stuck in my own ways, I'm allowed myself to remain flexible and remain curious about other areas of my life that I can actually give life to. That's what I mean by like remain fluid. As you receive new information about yourself, you should be able to grow and actually just uh, keep widening yourself as a person.
Yeah.
You don't have to be stuck in one place. You can allow yourself to move and be moved.
Your being fluid is being open to being nuanced and human. And I
Yeah.
think in my older age now, I understand that that's something that's always on a sliding scale.
Mm.
Um,
I think also it's like don't limit yourself.
Yes. Right.
Don't limit yourself.
Yeah, don't pigeonhole yourself.
Yes, exactly.
You can be messy and neat at once. You can be Korean and American at once. And
Exactly.
the way I see you, Laura, is that you're not, I want to be really careful because I don't want to say like, I don't see color. But when I see someone or I talk with someone, I see them as like, I see Laura.
Yeah.
And all the spectrums. So for me, I just sort of try to approach it by saying like, I don't have any expectations for you to be something other than not an asshole.
Yeah.
And I want to see Laura. And that's kind of as basic as I try to keep my life. Laura, you're someone that I've always respected and really appreciated as a person. And knowing how you move through the world, you're somebody that I definitely want to support and have in my community. I'm so happy to see that you've done so much work, and I know how hard it's been. I know how hard it's been.
But I just want to say, like, likewise, I'm very thankful of our meeting and our friendship.
Thanks.
You know?
Yeah. Especially when it's so crazy on production days that you're just like running through. But I am very grateful as well. Sign us off. Will you let me know who you are and what you encourage others to represent?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Laura Sohn, and I encourage others to represent harmony.
Thank you so much, Laura, for your time, for sharing such personal insights and experiences. I really loved our conversation. We've talked about redefining success on your own terms, owning your identity, and finding belonging in unexpected places. Laura's journey from leaving the Blacklist all the way to her solo trip in Korea and now bringing stories to life in Jeza. It reminds me that the path you take, it doesn't have to look like anyone else's to be meaningful. If this episode hit home for you, share it with someone who is trying to figure out their own path, trying to navigate family, identity, just trying to figure out what real success looks like. And don't forget, I've added links in the show notes so you can get your tickets to see Laura in Jeza. It's a fierce, funny, and deeply human play that you won't want to miss. Come say hi to me on Instagram. You can find me at Reppin_podcast. And my YouTube is Reppin Podcast. I always love hearing from you guys. Reppin is a Suburban Outlaw Productions. Thank you for listening. I'm Evelyn, and until next time, stand up and represent.
I think you're talented. Rough and rugged. Represent NY. Hold it down.